What's up, guys? This is Cisco from Misfit Minded, here to bring you a TV review of the hit HBO show Barry. For those who haven't been keeping up, Barry is about a hitman from the Midwest who moves out to LA to pursue his dreams of becoming an actor. And if that sounds kind of funny, it's supposed to be, at least a little bit. There's definitely some dark moments, some dramatic moments, but the whole premise of the show is based around this ridiculous concept of a hitman who is supposed to keep a low profile to not get caught from the police, is trying to make it as this hotshot actor in Hollywood. And while Barry is certainly not the first show to depict an unlikable protagonist, this show really has no likable protagonist in it. I mean, Barry's girlfriend, his mentor, they're all self-centered people. There's drug dealers and, murderers, hitmen, but not anyone that you could really call a good person. For those who don't remember, season 3 ends with Barry being sent to prison after being caught in an elaborate trap set by his mentor, Gene Cousineau, who's played by the great Henry Winkler, who actually won an Emmy for his portrayal of the narcissistic and self-obsessed Gene, the acting teacher, and also Jim Moss, who is the father of Gene's girlfriend in the show. So, this was a long time coming, and they announced another season, but usually when the main character goes to jail or dies, curtains close. That means the show is over. But the interesting thing about Barry is that it never takes the predictable or easy way out of any situation. So while other shows might have taken that route, they took season 4 as an opportunity to explore these cast of characters that you kind of like in their awfulness, if that makes any sense, and push them to, the brink of Barry's at his lowest moment. What does that mean for everyone else? His imprisonment kind of sets off this chain of events that leads to the season 4 finale. And much like the trailer frequently repeats, is Barry redeemable at this point after so many murders? That's a question they continue to wrestle with in season 4. And I think by the end, there is a definitive answer, even though I don't want to spoil it for you guys here. Another one of my favorite examples of direction in the show is when there's a meet at a Dave & Buster's, a gang meet from NoHo Hank, who is the fan favorite, hilarious character from the show, played by Anthony Carrigan. Him and his boyfriend, Cristobal, are energetically pitching their new idea at a Dave & Buster's. So again, picturing just a long table of thugs, hardened criminals, and then circling around them is eccentric NoHo Hank and his boyfriend Cristobal, as they're being interrupted by Dave & Buster's workers constantly. Do you want any appetizers? Yes, we'll take the jalapeno poppers and things like that. They really know how to use the environment and the background characters for a good laugh. Another character that really gets played up for laughs in this is, like I said, Fuchs, who is Barry's mentor. And so he's always kind of behind the scenes, orchestrating things, or on the other end of a phone call with Barry. But in season 4, I feel like they really went out of their way to transform him into the Raven, which is an alias he gave himself. It meant nothing. And then after him going to prison and getting brutally beaten almost to death, he transforms into the Raven. He's all tatted up, really impressive fake tattoos. It kind of reminded me of Cape Fear and Robert De Niro, but these aged tattoos on this actor Stephen Root, who's you might know from Office Space and Dodgeball. He doesn't really play hardened gangster or suave ladies man, but they really put him in those situations in season 4, and I really had a good time laughing at that. I think if there's one character that kind of suffers from Barry's imprisonment as far as her characterization, would be Sally. It's not so much that she needs Barry to be an interesting character, but she reached her rock bottom, I would say, last season, after like this video of her going viral, berating one of like her assistant, went viral. She got canceled, and so it seems like they're trying to like make her sink even lower than she already is. And so there's some funny stuff with like her, having to be the acting teacher since Jean is no longer teaching that class, and then her having to coach this actress on the set of this superhero movie. Barry being set in like the world of Hollywood, it comments on like how stupid some of these like movies coming out. It's like a superhero movie sequel, and it's all green screens, nothing is shot practically, and she's having to teach this like, super tall, gorgeous model how to act dramatically for these screens. So some of that stuff was funny, but I'll talk a little bit later about more Sally stuff, but I just think that her character kind of suffered the most, as well as like Barry just not being in it as much. And I do think that it's probably because Hader took on the directing mantle for every single episode, which he hadn't done for any of the previous seasons. He had directed some singular episodes, but never an entire season before. So again, I want to keep this spoiler free, but I will say that halfway through season 4, there is a time jump. And, another show that did this year was House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones show. And they did it multiple times in that season, which I thought was like, very confusing and disorienting, I guess, because it's the first season and we're still trying to get used to these characters. And when you do that so much and you're switching between actors, it was really hard for me to get into that. I would say Barry doesn't really have the same issue. I mean, Hader is still in it. Sally is still, in it, but it's a pretty significant change from a show that all took place like in real time. And so when I first watched it, it really didn't work for me. Upon revisiting it, I will say that the time jump, wasn't as disorienting as I, had first thought. And I think it's important to kind of give these shows and movies the benefit of the doubt sometimes, because when they do take these like bold choices that are away from the norm, it's easy to just write it off and be like, oh, this is different. This is not what I'm used to. I don't like this. But having watched the show the entire way through, the time jump made sense narratively. It made sense for Barry's character and what you see him like end up. Like he's kind of using religion in some of the final episodes to kind of justify his actions and kind of, hoping to redeem himself as a person, that maybe like when he dies, he'll go to heaven and won't have to deal with the consequences of him killing multiple people throughout the show. So while season 4 is not going to work for everybody, and Barry in general is not going to work for everybody, I do think that the decisions they made were audacious and they are going to hold up well over time. I mean, just look at The Sopranos ending and how much people hated it when it first came out, and how that show's a classic now. And I'm not comparing the two shows, I'm just making note that sometimes you have to sit with these endings and process them in ways that aren't just quick snapshot reactions, even though that's the sad world that we live in right now. I'm excited to see where Bill Hader goes from here, because this show was kind of a testing ground for him to grow as a director, as an actor, and flesh out this complex character. Same thing with Anthony Carrigan and Sarah Goldberg. I never saw them before Barry, and I think they have very promising futures ahead of them. So all the reasons I stated in this review, as well as its ability to balance comedy and drama in a way that you don't really see that much on television, I'm going to give the show a 3 out of 4. That's going to do it for me, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe at Misfit_Minded and at Action Movie Buffs on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Comment below and let me know what you thought of season 4 of Barry. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And as always, with all the media in the world to choose, come Misfit Minded for the best reviews.